All right, everybody, welcome in. Thank you all so much for coming out. Really do appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to come out here to the Wendover Nugget today. Want to give a very special thank you and shout out to the Wendover Nugget for having us here today. Food was wonderful. The staff has been wonderful. Thank you guys so much. We all really do appreciate it. So before we really get started here, we'll do a quick introduction in case there are some of you guys out there that might not know. We do have Gamble Smart here. This is Marc and Dave. They have their channel, Gamble Smart, Gamble Safe. So if you're not subscribed to them, please be sure to subscribe to them as well. And then for those of you that don't know, this is Ethan. He's our video editor for Cowboy Slots. So he's the one that does all of the wonderful work for all of our videos. So we really do appreciate having him here as well. Very, very good, Ethan, yes. So today's going to be just a kind of a Q&A, after which we are going to have a raffle. So you guys were given raffle tickets, so we will be doing some drawings for some pretty awesome prizes that the Nugget has provided for us. So please do make sure to stick around at the end of the Q&A for that. And then just as a reminder, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. is our slot tournament. We have slot tournament prizes going on. There should be a flyer on your table there. I think the top prize is $300 in free play, so that's really, really nice of the Nugget to provide. So that is going to be tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And we'll go ahead. We're going to get started with our Q&A. Ethan's actually going to be our moderator, so he's going to moderate. He's going to pull the comments, and he's going to read us the comments, and we're going to answer them from there. Marc and Dave, did you guys want to say anything before we get started? No. Okay, you sure?
I would definitely like on here. All right, I definitely like to thank everyone for coming out. I know, it's a great thing to have everyone come out who's really interested in how things work, how the actual system and the entire industry works.
All right, absolutely. Well, I hear that you guys have some awesome questions, so we're excited for this. All right, Ethan, go ahead and pull out the first question.
All right, let's see. I'm gonna pick this one. I don't know what this one is. All right. He says, it's a simple question. I think I can give this to everyone, but I might know the answer. It says, are you gonna be playing slots tonight?
Most likely, yes, for us. What about you guys? Yes.
Maybe.
That's definitely a maybe from me. I gotta be honest.
Actually, Ethan, what is, because you really don't play a lot of slots, but what is your favorite game that you do like to play?
Like in slot-wise?
Just anything.
Anything? Definitely Ultimate X. I like playing the poker. I'm a poker
Any
person.
Ultimate X people here?
Yeah, any Ultimate X people? Yeah.
All right, a couple Ultimate X people. By the way, really quick, where is everybody? Raise your hand if you're from Utah. Oh my gosh.
Wow,
okay, that's
awesome.
like everybody's from Utah. Okay, raise your hand if you come to Wendover all the time. Oh, okay.
About the same amount.
Raise your hand if this is your first time at the Nugget. Okay. Woo. All right. Well, welcome in. We appreciate having you. All right.
Awesome.
Let's throw the next question, Ethan. That was a good one.
Another good question. That was a great one. All right. Okay, so this one is asking, tell me about the Theo score and what that does. I'm going to pass that down to Dave because I think that's a great question for him.
Good question for Dave.
All right, so your theoretical everything, theoretical loss, theoretical win, theoretical daily, it all ties together in your play. The simplest way to think about theoretical is everything having to do with your play, okay? How much you're betting, your dollar amounts, your average bet, the number of bets you make per hour, per day, per trip. I like to tell people, when you think about Theo, just put it out of your mind, because you cannot check what your Theo is. You cannot look and see on any website what your Theo is. You have to go to your players club or to your host, if you have one, and they can tell it to you. But this is not something you need to obsess about because it can consume your whole life on keeping your Theo right. Oh, I need to make sure I'm betting this so I can keep my Theo. I need to make sure I'm betting that. Instead, focus on something simple like coin in and coin out. What is your coin in for a trip and your coin out for a trip? And that differentiate between the two is your loss or win. That's the easiest thing to focus on. It's available on almost every website, MGM, Caesars, all of them show your coin in, coin out on your account. And you can see that win-loss statement live on almost every property. That's the thing to focus on because it's so simple.
Well done, Dave.
Yeah, great. All right, let's see. This one. Let's go with this one. Flip it. All right. What advice would you give to someone who wants to start to be successful on YouTube? So I'm going to go ahead and point that at Brant specifically because he's been doing this for the longest, and I think you might know a few things about it.
Just a couple, maybe.
I'd hope so. I don't know. Something tells me you might know.
So being successful on YouTube really comes down to a couple things, but I think the biggest thing, at least for me, is just be genuine and have a connection with your audience. So, even in the slot world, there's a lot of slot channels out there. Obviously, there's thousands of slot channels out there. But you've got to have that connection with people. You've got to offer something new, offer something different. I've got to get a lot of props to Dave and Marc for really, they've kind of set the bar and set a whole new standard for responsible gambling. And I really appreciate that about them, and that's something that's very unique to their channel. So actually, I'd like to give them a round of applause for that, because that's actually really, really good. But building that connection with the audience and providing something different is probably the biggest thing to success on YouTube. And then also consistency, being consistent with it, maintaining consistent schedules. Ethan can tell you firsthand, we have a very consistent schedule that videos have to be out at a certain time on a certain day.
Oh yeah,
So that's always a good
consistent's
thing.
an understatement. It's a hard trek, but yeah, being consistent has always been our number one key, especially with the videos.
Yeah. What about you guys?
I think for us, the consistency is definitely a big part of it. You have to be very aggressive at the beginning. You have to have pretty much a video every day. I hate to say it, but you have to have a video every day out there, because what you're really looking for the most is that one video that will pop through the algorithm and get you on the map. And once that happens, all your other videos, you can kind of just take a step back and say, now we can get back into a cycle. But you have to be very aggressive from the beginning, hoping to get something very unique that people will share, they'll find interesting, and then you can start to put your plan together on how you want to grow your channel. And that happened to us, it happened to Brantley, all of the big channels out there, this is what happened. That's how they jumped through, that big algorithm bar that YouTube decides what you guys see whenever you go to other videos and you see stuff on the right side saying, hey, we're recommending this. That's what you want to be on. You want to be on that right side, and the only way to do that is to find some video that just magically takes off. You never know what that is, that's the problem. You never know what that video is going to be. But if you post enough, and you're yourself, like Brantley said, it will eventually happen. So that's the best advice I can give to anybody who wants to start a YouTube channel.
Great question.
The only thing I can add to that is if you're going to start a YouTube channel, pick something you have a passion for. Something that doesn't matter what it is. If it's knitting, if it's putting up a fence, anything, as long as you have a passion for it, there are people out there who will watch. Because there are people out there just like you with the same passion, and that's the way you can find each other is on YouTube.
Great question. Thank you,
Fantastic.
Ethan.
That was a great responses there. Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna go for this one, if I can grab it. In bingo-based slots, how can you be playing bingo against each other if no one has the same set of numbers? So I'm going to go ahead and pass that down to Marc, because I think he's got probably the best experience with it, or that idea at least. Oh.
You're muted. And this reminds me of our first
How
live
much
streams.
time do I have to explain this? Okay, I'll give the two.
You have at least 30 minutes. I mean,
Okay,
maybe
no,
more.
don't give me that long. I will definitely stretch that out. So, I'm going to make this very simple. When you're playing Class 2 bingo style slots, think of it as just a different way of generating randomness. That's all it is. That's all it is. For whatever reasons, people that want to do Class 2 gaming, the casinos, instead of going for the Class 3 license, which can be very involved, very expensive, a lot of smaller casinos put up Class 2 first. It's a lower barrier to entry to get them to starting a casino. But it's still acting very similar to a Class 3 slot. It's just the randomization is coming through the bingo server that is playing a game of bingo. But it's slightly different than just being in a bingo hall because you have hundreds of thousands of cards being delivered to many machines out there, and then you have a bingo call out happening at the same time. To add complexity to that, there's different bingo patterns that pay different things on different slots, and so it's very random. And so a lot of people feel because it's a bingo card, you can somehow manipulate the outcome better by timing your play or looking for certain patterns or certain cards and things like that. It's not true. You can't do any of that stuff. Their goal is to generate as much randomness as possible so that people cannot game the system. So there's my short answer. If you want a long answer, another time.
Another seminar.
I think you have a couple videos on that too.
We do have a couple of videos where we really go into detail about, how do you kind of know that you're about to get something or not. You can learn the bingo cards pretty well, and you can start to predict. And if you watch some of our live videos, we actually will say, well, here comes a cherry, and then a cherry comes on the line, you're like, how the hell did you just do that? It's like, well, if you learn the bingo cards, you can learn what's possible. And it's really fascinating. It adds a whole other element to it. We love playing them. We think it's very engaging, but it's just different. It's just different, but it's ultimately the same when it comes to the outcomes that you see.
I will add a little bit to that because I actually did work in a Class 2 facility. When I first started in the gaming industry, one of the casinos that I first worked at was Class 2. You can still win some pretty good amounts of money with Class 2 gaming. A lot of people, kind of shy away from the bingo based or, are a little hesitant about it, but you can actually win some pretty good amounts of money on Class 2 gaming with actually a lower bet. And we used to pay out countless grand jackpots, big amounts. I'm talking $70,000, $80,000 for people playing, only like a couple dollars a spin. So don't shy away from Class 2. It is still a really good form of gambling. It's just generating randomness in a different form. Great question.
Awesome, thank you. All right, let's see. It says, as someone who studies slots, machines, behavior, and player psychology, what do you believe is the most overlooked factor that can influence a player's long-term success in slot gaming? I want to let anyone jump in on this one.
Yeah, this is a good one. So, and actually, Mark, I think this was the question that...
the one about slot, the overlooked things, I don't know. The overlooked factors.
I think the biggest overlooked factor when playing slots is, there's honestly two things. The first thing being budget. I think not a lot of people take the time to really focus on the budget and decide what you should be betting based on your budget. I think too often people get distracted by either a game that looks good, has good graphics, or, oh, this is really fun, but you might not have the budget to play it that day. I think that's probably the biggest one is, of course, budget. The second one is the psychology. Gambling, we've said this a lot, is extremely psychological. The whole gaming industry is built on psychology, and it does a very good job. I mean, even with us, there's countless times we've played in the casino, and even though we know how all this stuff works and we work in the industry, we still fall victim to it. It's a very, very difficult thing to overcome. But I think the first step is you're here and you're listening to us, so you know about the psychological pull that gambling has on you. But I think those two factors are probably the biggest thing that really can hinder people with gambling, and one of those overlooked factors. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely right. I think besides budget, the hardest thing, and I'm sure if I asked everyone to raise their hand that this has ever happened to, you start playing a game and you can't seem to stop because you're trying to get the bonus. I want to see what the bonus looks like. I want to try to get one of these progressives. Let's see the hands.
I'll put my hand
put those
up
hands
that.
up.
Yeah.
I want to see what the bonus looks like.
Yeah.
If you're not raising your hand, you're a liar. The thing is that slot machine games are designed for you to do that. And you got to understand that it is psychological warfare the moment you step foot in the casino. Everything from the drink service, the style of the games that you're playing, the sounds, hearing people win, all of those things is playing right into your psychology to get you to spend as much money as possible on the game that you're playing. And it's only getting worse, guys. Like the games that are coming out now with the teasing, the constant teasing, the low jackpots and progressives, stuff like that, bonus rounds that never seem to come, huff and puff, huff and puff.
Even more, extra more. Best
super
more.
more,
Even
yeah.
extra more.
Yeah, how many
special.
times are they going to do this? But the thing is, and this is what we try to teach you guys, is that you need to step into the casino knowing that you have a plan to sit down in a machine and be ready to walk away. If it's not happening, you set your floor, you put $100 in, you said your floor is $50. If you got nothing in those $50, you got to get off of that machine and walk away and take a break before going and playing another one. Because if you don't, you will fall victim to the chase and you will continue to pump money through that machine looking for that bonus. And then what happens? You get the bonus finally, what do you get? $10 back. You put 300 in there to try to get the bonus, you finally get it and it sucks. You know, that's all playing a role, and you have to be in control. The casinos, the slot machine games and all that, they are not the ones that are come up to you and say, hey, you should probably stop chasing that bonus. You should probably cash out. That's not going to happen. You got to be the one to do that.
You know, I think building on this question, I actually think this entire question could be summed up with one quote. And if there was one quote that I really wish that everybody would understand, and it's the hardest thing to overcome, it would be this. You don't win because you play. You win because you stop. That's the best way to describe it. In Marc and Dave, even on their channel, they've said this before, and it's very true. You actually are winning more than you think, but a lot of times your mind can block it out, or you've continued to play, or you leave the casino, you don't have any money. And like I said, we're all fallible to that. Even myself, Marc, Dave, we're all fallible to that. And it's a very, very difficult thing to overcome. So having things like a lockbox or some kind of a plan in place, just as long as you're comfortable knowing, like, okay, this is my budget, I'm sticking to this. The video we came out with recently on dancing drums, raise your hand if you saw that video, the dancing drums video. Yeah, it's here on the floor, so if you guys want to go play it, you're more than welcome to. But if you notice in that video, every single time I would win something, I would say, okay, now that I'm at this point, I'm going to reevaluate. Look, even if you decide you want to continue to play, and many times I do, if you decide you want to continue to play, that's perfectly fine, as long as you're taking that moment to evaluate. So even if your decision is to proceed, as long as you've taken that step back to stop and think, and set your lower, set your upper, say, okay, now that I've won that bonus, I'm not going to let it go below this amount. And if it gets higher than that, say, okay, I'm going to stop at this point or this point, high or low. That's the best thing. But great question, whoever put that question in there. That was a really good question.
Absolutely fantastic. All right, let's go with this one. Have you played slots in New Mexico? Any casinos you would recommend? Let's go put that out there, everyone, because I don't know who's been there.
I used to go to Sandia in New Mexico.
That's the only one I would recommend too.
And what's funny about Sandia is that's actually where I learned how to play craps for the first time. So I was actually going in there playing table games with a group of friends, and I actually played tables more than I did slots at that point. But I did play slots there, just not very heavily. But that's been years ago, long before the channel. What about you guys?
There we go. So Sandia is the best casino around there. It is so much a Vegas-style casino. The first time I went in, I was just like, this is someone who took notes and made it happen outside of Vegas. They did such a great job. The staff is friendly. The machine selection, the game selection is great. And their comp system is actually extremely good.
Absolutely awesome. All right. Next up, we've got, let's see. Do you prefer sauce or dry rubs on your chicken wings?
Oh, hey.
We're jumping into a deep one with Brant. I think I got to give Brant
okay.
the floor with this one. But
All right.
let's get the answer from everyone. But I got to
here's
give
the
him the
thing.
floor because he's got a very particular chicken wing style.
First of all, thank you very much for asking these questions because we love answering these guys. For me, I'm actually pretty picky on my wings. I always order my wings the same way, so bear with me. It's a long order. All the wings, flats only, dry, with sauce on the side because I like to rip and dip.
Absolutely.
And I like
get that
them crispy.
crispiness with it.
Yep.
All right, so I was very much a wet wing person, but I'm all drums. I like all drums. I like them
We need to
extra
go eat
crispy.
wings together,
And-
Dave.
And now there's a rub I found that's a spicy ranch dry rub. It is awesome. It doesn't get under your fingernails, so you're like burning for a while. It's great.
Dry rub here.
I'm good with any wing. I like a wing.
Good question.
All right. Next up. How did you three meet? So how specifically did you three meet? So I
Jesus.
guess we should say, let's try to put it in a different context, because I'm guessing, so let's say, how did you and Brant meet, like Mark and Brant, and then how did Dave and Mark meet? And then how all three did you connect? Let's do it that way.
Well, Mark and I are over here looking at each other. So I'll take this one. So Mark and I actually, well, I don't want to say we used to not get along, but
We didn't get along.
we didn't like each other. So, and this kind of goes to show a lot about Mark's character as well. So, Cowboy Slots had just started, and Mark had his home slots channel, and Mark didn't like Cowboy Slots at first, and it was it Stacy, I think, was like, well, you guys should just reach out and touch base and all that. And I think that first time that Mark and I ever talked, we talked for well over an hour, and we realized that we both actually had the same message. And we started to work together, and the rest is history, and now we're here. But it's a matter of overcoming and realizing that there is common ground and coming together on the same message. So that was how Mark and I met.
Yeah, just to add to that, it was, I take the blame for jumping to conclusions, because I will tell you exactly what I thought. Somebody sent me a link to one of his videos, and I said, well, there are not any kids in here, are there? I said, who the fuck is this guy? Here we go, we got somebody else, some other Yahoo sitting here on YouTube that knows everything about slots and is going to start doing videos, because there was so many before us, and we're not going to mention name, but there was one channel we talked about for that hour.
We had a mutual dislike for another channel.
Yeah, and that's what got us to figure out I was wrong, and he did know what he was talking about, and we ended up coming together. So, I took the L on that one. Like, I jumped to conclusions because I just figured, here we go. Some other guy, I've been busting my butt, and I've got 5,000 subscribers. He's got 36,000 in 3 days. It's like, who is this guy? And so, anyway, we talked it out, and everything was good. Now, for Dave and I,
Yeah, different story.
different story.
I'm going to tell this one.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so I had just started my YouTube channel, and I'm a huge Top Dollar fan. I've been a Top Dollar fan ever since I first set foot in a casino, and I remember the date. It was May 1996, and I played my first... Well, thank you, that makes me feel great. That was my first time playing Top Dollar. It was double Top Dollar, quarter, 2 credits a spin. It was at Fremont Casino in Vegas, and I fell in love with the game, absolutely. And I've been in love with it ever since. And then I see, just searching on YouTube, who's doing stuff with Top Dollar. Mark comes up, and he's fixing Top Dollar machines. I'm like, I have never seen inside a machine before. So it was awesome just to see that. We connected on that point. He's great giving me tips about doing a channel. We worked on several things together, and I can attest that when Brantley's channel started, Mark was like, this guy. And I was like, just go talk to him. And so that worked out well.
Really good question. All right.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. How much is appropriate to tip after winning a jackpot?
So here's the thing. I've worked in several different casinos. Every single casino handles tips different. Everyone. I've worked for casinos where employees keep their own. I've worked for casinos where employees share on shift. I've worked for casinos where employees, actually one of the casinos that I worked at, our tips were actually split between us, housekeeping, bartending, like other staff members even outside of the slot department. So the tips, how they work within the industry is very different. It can vary drastically from property to property. But the thing is I think everybody agrees that tipping is always good karma. It's a good thing to do, helps people out, but you should never feel obligated or pressured into doing that. It's actually even on YouTube. There's times where somebody else will post a video of getting like paid out a jackpot, and there's comments that roll in. Why didn't you tip? Why didn't you tip? I'm like, tipping is a personal choice. It's a personal decision. There is no set percent. I can tell you that. I've worked in the industry. I've worked for countless casinos. There is no set percent. And even in the slot department, we did not ever get upset for people not tipping. We still made a good hourly wage. But again, every single casino is different. Every single department is different. It's always good karma. So always just remember that. Dave, you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I'm going to add a little bit to that about not being pressured, for one. They're not going to give you that money back when you lose. They're not going to reward you with any money, if you don't win that jackpot. So keep in mind that it's completely up to you. It is your prerogative whether or not you want to tip or not, except for your drink hostesses. Those people work hard. They put in miles and miles. Just tip them $1. Don't have to go crazy. Tip them whatever you like, but at least $1 per drink, because they're putting miles on those feet hard.
Absolutely. I will say this: the tipping that we are talking about here is specific for the slot department. So don't think it's for restaurants or anything like that. That's a clearly different ball game. So this is just for the slot department.
And always tip the person that is cleaning up the trash from us messy humans that leave empty cups, empty everything, and trash all over the slot machines, the bathroom attendants. Like, think of those guys too, because they're also working hard cleaning up after us disgusting humans.
That's a good point. If you do win a jackpot, don't tip the attendant. Tip the guy in the bathroom cleaning the bathroom. That guy deserves it.
All right. Well said.
Awesome. Absolutely. All right. Let's see. Let's go for this one. What's your favorite slot game? Let's go and we'll go all the way around.
Oh, geez. Hold on. Before we have to
Okay,
answer this, I need a poll of the audience.
Absolutely.
This is going to be, I want you to raise your hand if you're team top dollar. Raise your hand.
Oh, not many top dollars.
All right. How about team pinball? Hey, pinball.
That looked even to me. That looked
It was
even.
pretty even.
Team Dragon Link.
Okay, couple. Okay.
Up and Puff? Nobody.
Huff and nobody. Rake and bacon. Hey, there's one in the back. All right. So I'll start with me. I actually have quite a few different favorite games. Having slots at home, I will say this, and Mark can attest to this as well. If you buy your favorite game for your house, you get bored of it very quickly. I just got a Ainsworth Thunder Cash in my house, and I think since getting it, I have not played it in the casino because I'm tired of seeing it now.
I told you that was going to happen.
I know. I'm already ready to swap it out. But I will say this, pinball's always a favorite of mine. It always has been a favorite. It is harder to get the bonus on than top dollar. I will say that, but the bonus is more rewarding, which is why I like it. So I got to go with pinball if I were to pick just one. But there are a lot of newer games coming out that I'm really, really fond of that I'm starting to enjoy. But what about you, Mark? I know you're going to say top dollar.
Well, hold on. I'm going to pull the audience. Okay, in 3 seconds, I want you guys to pick which slot machine Dave and I like the most. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you. Next question.
Or is it triple top dollar? No, not triple top dollar. Yeah. All right, very, very good question. All right.
Absolutely great.
You guys have some good ones.
What is the largest jackpot you have ever won with a low bet? So I guess, what are we considering a low bet here? I guess we got to kind of specify that first. We talking less than $1 or
You know,
in context?
there is something that I do want to add to this, and this is, I think, a topic that doesn't come up a lot. I'm going to kind of side rail on this one a little bit. I think a lot of people, when they say low bet, they forget that money is subjective. I have met people that say, I would never do a dollar bet because that's too expensive. I have also met people that they say they will never do less than $100 a spin because it's not worth it. So there's just the very definition of money and what a low bet is very subjective. And I actually think that it's not really something that you can put a number to, nor should you, because you're either going to pressure people into playing more, thinking that, you know, their current betting isn't low enough, or you're going to, you know, make people feel bad if they are betting less. So I think that money is always very subjective, and I think that's something that not a lot of people mention, and I haven't actually even heard that mentioned very many places. But biggest jackpot on a low bet for me, you know, I wouldn't even know what to say for my, you know, what I consider a low bet, to be honest. So I'm going to pass this down to Marc and Dave. What do you say?
The way that, and this is kind of a tip for you guys too, the way you should always look at things, wins on a slot machine, is as a multiplier of the amount that you're wagering. So you hear people talk about, that's 100 times my bet, that's 150 times my bet. That's the number that you should focus on. Don't chase the progressives and the big jackpots and stuff. Focus on how far away. Because listen, you're betting $3 and you win 100, that's awesome. Like, that is a good win, okay? You bet $3 and win 1,000, Cherry's Jubilee, that's 666 times your bet. Or is that right, or 333? 330, my math's bad. 333 times your bet. That's freaking awesome. So I would have to say Cherry's Jubilee for me, because $3 for winning 1,000 is pretty good for a low bet.
Yeah, I would agree on that one.
So I actually know my top 3 low bets. It's 75 cents. I won $600. And that was old school 3-reel machine. There wasn't anything huffing, nothing. On a $2 bet, it's $1,200, and on a $3 bet, it's $1,011 on Cherry's Jubilee.
Good question, though.
Fantastic. Good sidetracking. I think that's important to go over.
I think that is important. I don't think I haven't heard many people mention that, the fact that money is very subjective.
Oh, no, I think it's important, especially as we see the modern slot market, especially on YouTube. I mean, obviously, we're great. We try our best here, but I think a lot of people get out of context. A lot of people that are playing those bets, they don't really look at the proportional of, like, what they win versus what they're getting. So I think it pushes people on a wrong path, and I think it's important to put it in perspective.
It definitely does, and I think that's another issue. An issue that we see is a lot of times, you know, when we start putting numbers and labels on things, people start going outside of their comfort zone. So, you know, what is a low bet to you might not be a low bet to somebody else, and so I always try to avoid putting actual numbers on it because everybody's definition and situation is different.
Absolutely. I think that's why it's important that we show the different budgets like we have been, especially recently with the low bets and stuff like that. So, all right. All right, I think this is a decent question. Did you ever expect to get this big? I'm going to pass that specifically to all 3 of you, though. I think it's really important to hear that. You sure?
No, I never expected to get this big. And it's funny because I look back on it now, and even, you know, 3 years ago, Cowboy Slots didn't exist. And I couldn't have ever pictured myself, you know, sitting here, you know, speaking to an audience and actually doing this. I was never one to sit in front of the camera. I will say this: it was really weird filming my first video because I was talking to a camera, and that was not something that I was comfortable with. And it was really after the first video took off, I was kind of set back a little bit, and I was like, people like this stuff? Like I was like, people are interested in hearing about this stuff. And so, you know, I continued and I pushed on, and, you know, now we're here today. But no, I never expected to get this big. I was just a normal, regular person that just enjoyed slot machines and enjoyed working on slot machines, and now we're here. So never expected. And that is all thanks to you guys, so thank you very much.
Thank you guys so much.
Well, I can tell you what the success has meant to Mark and I, but the best way to do it is check out our live last night when we hit 50,000. Mark and I are holding back tears because we just did not expect in 9 months to be here. We worked for years on our other channels and never got to this point. So it's just amazing to us that people want to hear what we have to say and are interested in what we have to say and subscribe. And we appreciate every one of you that do.
I do want to add really quick, thank you. I do want to add something really quick just to the growth and all of that. It really does make my day, and I still think about all of the times when I get messages from people or people come up into the casino and they say, I'm having a more enjoyable time at the casino because of you. I won my first jackpot because of you. I've done better with my budget because of you. I've even had people, and Mark can attest to this as well, we have gotten messages in private from people that say, I didn't realize that I had a gambling problem, and they got help because of us. So that actually really, really is very important. So thank you guys again for that.
Absolutely. I also wanted to say real quick, anyone that ever makes comments about like the editing and stuff, because that's what I focus in. Every time I see that, that makes my day so much, because it's just like I spend so many hours and it feels so good to see people appreciate and enjoying the content so much. That really does mean a lot.
Thank you, Ethan.
All right, there's a couple more questions, so I'll go with them. And there's another one. It says, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go? Anywhere. Just in general. I don't know if it's a vacation, are we moving, we fleeing the country, what's going on?
I know the answer to this for you.
What?
He wants to be on an island with nobody else around.
Yeah. Hey, that's possible.
I mean, if anywhere, you could just pop on an island.
I live in Wyoming. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's pretty true. All you got to do is go to anywhere in the middle of the winter. You're done.
Yeah, just go to Wyoming in the winter, and it's like being on an island. But I mean, travel is something for me. I did a lot of traveling many years ago. Not so much anymore. I've been all over Europe. I've been to different parts of the world, and I've seen it. And really, having been to so many other places in the world, I can say that I'm most comfortable here in the U.S., right where I'm at. This is where I'm comfortable. This is where I want to stay. You don't need to leave the country to really do and experience so much. We have so much great things here in the United States to experience. There we go. There's so many great things here in the United States to experience, and going over to Europe and other countries as well. I'm just always glad to come home.
I have to be careful because my wife is in the chat.
Don't give her ideas.
I can already see it coming. So, I love to travel. I really do. I do like it here too, and my retirement plan, whether you want it to be or not, honey, I'm sorry, I would love to sell everything, buy a decked out $1 million RV, and just go and live in every single state for like 6 months. Because I do think the U.S. has a lot to offer. It'd be fun to experience that, go in different places. But before then, I certainly would like to travel. We're going to look to do, I like cruising. We're started to do more cruising lately. I thought that was awesome. Sit on a boat and just relax. It's nice. So I'd love to do more of that, and that's a good way to get out and see different countries and different parts. And so probably do some of that. But as for one single place, I can't think of like a single spot that I really like. If I had the money, I'd go right now. I'd like to see a lot of different things.
All right, well, I'm going to cheat slightly and give 2 answers. As far as like the dream place I want to go, it's Bali with one of those huts that's over the water that we've all seen pictures of forever, and we're just like, I just want to go there. For a gambling dream vacation, it's actually pretty dumb. I want to go to Monte Carlo wearing a full tuxedo like James Bond and walk in there and play any game. It doesn't even matter. Just to do that, just to have that experience of walking in there like, I'll have a vodka martini. And even though I hate them, but still, that's what I want.
Good one, Dave.
All right, next up question. How did you discover the Wendover Nugget? I'm going to put that specifically on Brant, because I think that's an interesting idea.
Well, when I first moved to Wyoming, I wasn't sure what the gaming environment looked like around here, and I was looking up different casinos, and people in Kemmer, which is where I'm from in Wyoming, were like, oh, you got to go to Wendover. And we came out to Wendover, and actually the first time I ever came over to Wendover, I stayed next door at Montego Bay. And stayed over at Montego Bay, and we were with a group of friends, and we went to Peppermill and Rainbow and all of that. And I decided to walk over to the Nugget. This was the first time. This was actually before the channel, or slightly before the channel. Came over to the Nugget, and the first thing that I realized about the Nugget is they have all the classic games and all the games that I loved to play. And the floor was open, and it was clean, and it was well laid out, and they had a mix of everything. They've got the classics, they've got the newest, they've got everything under one roof. And that's when I had reached out. I still remember, because it was actually, we did a road trip together, Mark and I did. And we could have picked any casino to stop at here in Wendover, and we chose to stop at the Nugget, because I told Mark, and this was before I got to know the staff here at the Nugget, I said, we've got to go to the Nugget because they have the best selection of machines. And they have the most open floor, most well laid out floor. Everything is much better at the Nugget. I have been to every single property in Wendover, and I would still choose the Nugget over the other properties any day. And it was actually Daryl who I met. It was funny because she was working at the player's desk, and I was like, could I speak to the slot manager? And she was like, oh, that's me. And we started talking, and I will say this. From day one, before I even mentioned the channel, the staff here was incredibly awesome. Every single staff member was incredible. The slot people, they love their job. They love to be here. I know almost every single person's name. They all know me. They all remember many of you. And a lot of times I just see how the hosts will come out and talk to people. My biggest thing when I look at any property is always customer service, and the Nugget far exceeds in the field of customer service compared to any other property in Wendover. It's a big round of applause to them.
Huge round of applause for him.
I will choose the Nugget all day long.
Absolutely. All right, next up. How long were you working on machines? I'm assuming this means how long have you been in the industry, or like in general? I guess let's go with the in general, because I think we've answered in the industry. So how long have you been tinkering with machines? Let's go with at least you two.
Yeah, so I'll answer this one really quick, and then I'll hand it over to Mark to answer on. So I think Mark and I actually kind of started the same. We just had a general interest in it, and I decided to purchase a slot machine for my house. This was many years ago, way before the channel, just because I wanted to play with it and tinker with it and stuff like that. And the guy that I bought it from, his neighbor actually worked for IGT, and he was a field tech for IGT. And we started messing around with machines like in the garage and stuff like that, and he just kind of started teaching me everything. Well, then I opened a business selling slot machines. And then after that, I started working in the casino industry, and it snowballed from there. That was, gosh, I can't even remember when that was. It's been a while. It's been about 10 years or so. Mark, what about you?
I think it was probably around 2018 or so. Bought my first 2 slot machines, working from a gentleman who I still work with today. And I broke them that very night by trying to fix them. They were working just fine, but I tried to fix them anyway. And so that's when I kind of had to force myself into learning about all of that stuff. And, I've always been a tech person. I'm a programmer. I write code all day long, very monotonous and boring, but I like taking things apart and learning how they work. And it kind of just all took off from there. Had 2 machines, consolidated back to 1, and then, yeah, it's bad now. It's bad. I think I've got 9 machines in my slot room.
Once you start, you don't stop.
I've got 4 or 5 in the garage. I've got 3 in storage, and it's just they will not leave me alone.
Well, Mark, I have a surprise for you. This whole event is actually an intervention to talk about your slot machine problem.
I welcome it. Bring it.
Come sit in the circle. We'll form
one
one.
time you were throwing up in the...
All right. Next question. Let's say, so what are your thoughts on group gambling everyone putting money in, can you maintain friendships? I guess that's a subjective question, and can it be done? Like, can you do group gambling? What's your opinion on it?
So here's my opinion really quick, then of course I'll pass it on to Mark and Dave. So with group polls, I'm assuming we're talking about group polls here. If you're with family and friends, like a small group, I don't see any problem with it. Like if you're with your family or, a couple friends are in town, you're like, oh, let's each toss in $100. There's not a problem with it. Do not do a group poll with a giant group of people. There's no benefit. The reason being is there's no benefit for you, the player. Because I have seen videos of group polls where it's, large amounts of people doing these group polls. And, some people enjoy it. Some people enjoy it for the camaraderie or, anything like that. But I'll see where it's like, okay, everybody put in $500 and everybody's going home with $502. There's no benefit to that at all. You just let somebody else get all of your player points. You could have taken your $500 and you could have done a lot more with it than with, 200-300 other people, 30 other people, strangers like that. I think if you're with friends or family, it's a little bit different, or if it's like a very small group poll, but never with strangers. That's just my personal opinion on it. Mark and Dave, what about you?
So one thing I always say with doing a group poll is before you do it, get all the specifics out. So if you're going in with 5 people, figure out, for one, if you hit something big, who's claiming the taxes? Designate a person to do that. Figure out, are y'all going to pay him a percentage of what you won to cover those taxes? Figure all that stuff out ahead of time before you start playing. I love doing group polls with my friends. Anyone says, hey, let's go do a group poll together. We each put in 50, $100, whatever. I'm in. The big group polls, make sure you have all those details. Make sure, for one, if it's your turn, put your card in. There's some places that don't allow that, and that's just part of the rules you have to know in. Any big poll, make sure you look at those details specifically. Read the fine print before you put your money in.
Very good. All right, next
Perfect.
one.
All right, next up, how long before old 3-reel slots will be phased out and we'll be forced to play the modern ones?
I don't think 3-reel slots are going to get phased out. There are a lot of game makers out there, and this is actually something that we're seeing. A lot of game makers are actually trying to backpedal a little bit because they realize that they went a little too hard, a little too fast with some of these big, massive, video game styles. I like to call them that. They're like 5 reels, multiple screens, stuff like that, that people do miss the classics. And there is a certain element, a certain aspect about it. You really can't think of a slot machine without thinking of a 3-reel game. So we are seeing some 3-reels start to slowly come back. They're just doing it in a newer style cabinet. A lot of the older classic games that we all know and love, Pinball Top Dollar included, they've remade into a newer cabinet. It is the exact same game, exact same math. You don't have to worry about anything being different. It just looks newer and more modern. So I don't think we're going to see 3-reel slots phased out, not anytime soon. What do you guys want to add?
One thing that I've definitely noticed within the last several years is that companies like IGT and Every have committed to 3-reel slots going into the future. They're coming out with new games. Every, you can see that from Zoltar to Total Meltdown. From IGT, you're seeing all the new games coming out in the Diamond RS cabinet. And then also Light & Wonder is coming out with an actual Huff and Puff that's a 3-reel game for penny version. So these companies are dedicated to mechanical reels into the future.
The last thing I'll say is that make sure you keep playing them and tell all your friends to play them too, because if they sit there dead on the floor, you know what's going to happen.
Keep them around.
One more thing on that.
Yeah.
If your favorite casino has gotten rid of your 3-reel slot, do not sit quietly by. Talk to the slot manager. Say, I have loved this game. Where did it go? Can you bring it back? Get other people to say, I love this game. Can you bring it back? Believe me, if enough people do it, they'll bring it back.
Really quick, I'm going to actually add to that, and Daryl can attest to this. I'm sure you can. The casino does listen to you. They do listen to you. If enough people come up to the slot manager, slot director, and say, hey, I really want this game, this is the game I want to play, they will listen. They will listen because they look into that. They do rely on feedback from players. So if there is a game out there that you really want to see on your local casino floor, please do voice that, because the more input that they have, the better decisions that they can make on how they can best to expand or modify their floor.
All right, next up, let's see. Why is the 5-line lower volatile than a 1-line machine? So I guess how can a 5-line machine be less volatile than a 1-line? Basically, how do the lines make volatility?
They're a very good question. The reason is because you have more chances to hit something. It's really that simple. We love 5-line games. We don't really like 9-line games, and we don't really like single-line games unless we have to. Calm down. Oh, I know. I was forced into it. 5 lines is kind of a healthy mix between the two, in my opinion. You tend to get the feeling, at least, that you're hitting something a little bit more frequently. You can get your bet back, because you have 5 lines, basically 5 attempts to get something. Where on a single line, you can end up with more blanks and stuff. But in theory, if you do get something on a 3-line or a single pay line, it pays a little bit more. Because you think about 5, it's like 5 slices, right? You're dividing up 1 slice into 5, and so that can cut down. But we want you to try to extend your play on a machine as much as you possibly can. And so to do that, you got to get a lot of those kickbacks and, small wins, getting your win back, your bet back, stuff like that. That's what you really want to do, and the 5 line's kind of the sweet spot. And so the volatility is typically lower on those because of that.
Great question. All right.
Awesome, great question. This is specific to Brant, I'm assuming, unless Gamble Smart really likes the Western wear. I mean, I'll see it. Let's see the cowboy hats out. It's specific. It's going to say, what is your favorite brand of Western wear specifically?
Oh, man. Well,
Could be boots, hats, shirts, all the above.
So cowboy hats, Stetson always fits the best. Just their fit. All of my cowboy hats are Stetson. Boots, it really depends. I mean, a lot of Ariat boots. That's tends to be the most of them. Jeans, I always wear the same jeans. They're always Wrangler Retro. That's the same jeans I always wear. If you guys notice anything, I wear almost the same outfit in every single video, and I have for 3 years. So I don't really change it up a lot. It's usually a black, gray, green, or tan color shirt and some jeans.
Awesome, great question. All right, a pretty good question. What does the light on top of the slot bucking mean? So basically the blinker lights on a lot of machines.
So that one, it actually does have a lot of meaning. There's different sequences. So it's called the candle. The candle is the light on top of the slot machine. Traditionally has 2 sections. Some games have 3, some games have crazy amounts, but traditionally it's 2 sections. And the sequence and how they flash has different meanings. So if the top light is solid, then that's the service light. Somebody needs assistance with something, they press that service button. If that top light is solid, always was a big pet peeve of mine in the casino when people leave that light on. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me. So even if I'm at a casino, and I know Daryl can attest to this too, I'll be at the casino and we'll be talking and I keep looking over because I see there's a service light on and I'm just like, I need to go turn that off. So if this top light's solid, it's a service light. If both lights are slowly flashing intermittently, it's a jackpot. Or together. If both lights are slowly flashing together, it's a jackpot. If both lights are flashing rapidly, it's usually that the door is open or that it's in a service menu. And typically, if the top light is a slow flash, it usually means that there's some kind of an error code on the machine. And when I say error code, nobody panic. It's usually like the printer paper is low, or the main battery is low, or something like that. And if the top light by itself is flashing rapidly, it means that usually that the door was open and it hasn't been played since then.
I actually got a quick story. I'm going to make it quick, even though I talk a lot. So there's actually a funny thing about Aria. I don't know if I ever told you this. Did I ever tell you about the candles at Aria?
What's that?
Okay, so when the Aria was first built, the general manager would come down to the floor in the morning and say, why are all of these lights on and flashing on all these slots? And like Brantley just said, if the door was opened and it hasn't been played since the door was last opened, that light would stay on or it would flash at the top. And he came down, he's like, nobody's playing these machines because that light's on. So he made all the slot technicians remove the light on the top. And to this day, any of the old school slots that are at Aria do not have that top light in there. Fun story.
All right.
Awesome. Great question. All right, next up. How nervous were you on your first live stream?
Oh my gosh. I remember, it's still on the channel. If you guys ever do want to go see my very first live stream, if you go to Cowboy Slots, click on live, and just drop all the way to the very bottom, and you will actually see live stream episode number 1. It was so bad. I did not know what I was doing. We didn't have, there was no, we didn't have anything for video quality. We didn't have anything for audio, nothing. It was just me sitting there staring at the camera, and I was like, hi, like literally, it was bad. But okay, you remember it then. But it's definitely something that you have to get used to. It really is. And I mean, now it's funny because it's like second nature. We're like, all right, 30 seconds. All right, go ahead and click. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so it's like, now it's like second nature.
Absolutely. I think it's crazy because you get to a point when you've been doing this for so long that looking at a camera or something like that is so much easier than talking to the people that come up to us. It's hard to talk to people, but a camera's easy. It doesn't talk back.
And we do have just a couple more questions, guys, and then just as a reminder, we will be doing the raffle. We have a lot of really great raffle prizes, so we're almost to the end. Almost to the end.
Well, this is a question about me, I guess, so.
Here, hold on.
I'll let you do it.
I'm gonna... Ethan.
Yes.
Hold on, what's this say? Oh, does the young man photographer gamble as well, and are you both related?
Well, I can tell you the answer for both of those is a pretty easy one, I'd hope. We're not related at all. No. And I do gamble occasionally. I've gotten more into it, obviously, as I've been around more, but I'm more of a video poker person, obviously, like we talked about. But I'm definitely video poker, but I've slowly warmed up. I play occasionally, especially when it's with my wife. I like to play with her. It's just a lot of fun when you get out there and you just have the energy. That's what makes it a lot of fun. So, absolutely.
Very good.
Awesome.
All right.
That's the
Well, it
empty
looks
bowl.
like that was the last question. Now, we got about 5 more minutes or so before we do the raffle. Does anybody have any particular question or anything that you might have just thought of that you would like to ask a couple of them? Jerry?
Jerry, absolutely.
Oh, that is not a stupid question. There is no stupid questions. For the slot tournament tomorrow, where are we meeting? So it's going to be downstairs over by the live Keno. So the live Keno area, the bank of slot machines, if you're familiar with the Nugget, it's where they host all of their slot tournaments, which the Nugget here does a lot of slot tournaments and different events. So if you're not familiar, it's going to be downstairs on the main casino floor over by the live Keno area. So great question.
Just look for the big cowboy hat.
I'll be there. Yes, sir. That is a good question with a pretty in-depth answer. So the question was, are slot machines going to be accepting credit or debit cards? The answer is no, because that is a big security, it's a big security risk. There are systems that are being developed that are kind of in test markets right now for cashless slots that kind of, if you're familiar with using Apple Pay or Android Pay, Google Pay, whatever that is, where you just like beep your phone up almost like the NFC in your card, there is technology that's being developed for that to where you can actually, you bring your phone up to the slot machine, you beep it, and it will add credits. But the cool thing about that system, because I've had a chance to see it, if you get up and walk away from the slot machine, it automatically will cash it out and put it back on your phone. So you can't leave credits behind. So that's kind of a cool security feature for that. But as for the machines accepting credit or debit cards directly, no, it's way too big of a security risk. Yes, sir. Yeah, so with FastPay, they actually do have some new stuff coming out with FastPay that they're looking at, particularly with cashless wallets and stuff like that. FastPay is really awesome. I know a lot of people like it. Sometimes, especially like a lot of the really big high rollers, FastPay is nice and easy. There are some newer technologies coming out where it can be, if you're using a cashless wallet, it can go like directly into your bank account, which is kind of nice, or it can go into like a temporary holding area in your wallet. Obviously, we'll have to kind of wait and see. It's still pretty new. We'll have to kind of wait and see how that technology develops. Yes? Yeah, that's, here's the thing, a lot of people ask that, when are they going to raise the taxable jackpot limit? The thing is I'm always seeing new articles come out, somebody new comes forward and they say, hey, I heard they're going to raise the jackpot limit. They've been talking about that for like 20 years. Every single time somebody new comes out and says, oh, we're going to reintroduce this act to get, this passed and this done, it never gets done.
We might be in a grave before it happens.
Yeah, that's the one thing. The wheels of the government turn very slow, and even I do have an episode on the channel where we talked to a tax agent, and they said, hope for the best, but don't expect it anytime soon.
The IRS loves its money.
The IRS actually at one point talked about making it smaller. They talked about taking it from 1,200 to 600.
Well, there's a little bit of news on that. There is some new news on that.
Be careful wishing for them to change anything. Let's just leave them alone. Don't give them ideas. Yes. So that's a good question, and we'll probably make that we'll make this go into our raffle. So the question was, does YouTube penalize us as the creators for people that skip ads? Really, that I'm not sure. I believe they do in a way. I don't think we get the full CPM from that if somebody doesn't watch an ad. So ads are very important, obviously. But I don't think it's a major impact, so to speak. Do you guys know any more about that, Dave?
So there's not an impact other than losing that revenue, but we'd really appreciate if you watch all those ads instead of skipping through.
If you watch them all, that'd be
Thank
great.
you, Dave.
Very informative stuff.
Who knows, you might get some cheaper car insurance, right?
All right. I think the biggest thing, the one thing that would be a concern for me if you do gamble internationally and come back to the U.S. is they always ask that question when you come in from another country, are you carrying over $10,000 or more in cash? And if you are, you better be prepared to step out of the line and answer a lot more questions. And if you don't have all your paperwork in line, they might, who knows, even confiscate it. So that's the only thing.
The IRS likes its money.
The IRS wants its money.
IRS heard you got some cash. No.
No, not really.
No.
If you are going to travel out of the country to gamble, go to your local bank, whatever bank you use. I'm going to use Wells Fargo as an example. They have affiliate banks all around the world. Just say you're going to go to this country. You want to find the affiliate bank there. Withdraw your money at that location and then deposit it before you leave. You do not have to worry about coming into the country with that $10,000 limit. So that's something to think about. A lot.
Yeah, that's our Dave's Monte Carlo trip. All right, guys, let's go ahead and let's do our raffle. So we've got a lot of prizes, and thank you guys so much for the wonderful Q&A. And once again, a big round of applause and thank you to the Wendover Nugget for hosting this wonderful event. Great food, great drinks, great fun. Thank you guys so much. Let's get some prizes. All right, so first prize, Daryl, what should our first prize